This episode is all about business transformations using the Max Business Profits Business Alchemy system.
Welcome to Business Innovators Radio, featuring industry influencers and trendsetters sharing proven strategies to help you build a better life right now.
Welcome to the program. I'm Mark Imperial. This is a special series all about growing and selling your business for max profits. Joining me on this segment is our esteemed guest expert, Sergio DeCesare. Sergio is a best-selling author featured in the book Elite Business Leaders, an Amazon #1 title. He's also a certified profit and growth expert, a certified value builder, profit acceleration expert, a certified business coach, and certified magnetic mind coach. He's also a business broker in Florida. Sergio, welcome to the program.
Hey, Mark, good to see you again.
Sergio, so this is all about business transformations using your system. So can your system be applied to any type of business, or what types of business does it work well for?
Almost certainly, Mark. All types of business can benefit from the system because the system really has four parts to it. And it's the marketing, it's understanding the numbers, financial understanding, it's processes and innovations. And the fourth, of course, we talked about already, is the mindset. So almost any business owner can benefit from this.
Excellent. We promised some examples. So Sergio, can you kick it off and give us an example of one transformation using your system?
So one transformation that pops in my head that I always love to talk about was a very niche gun shop that had called me in to do exit planning for them, an exit strategy. And they were already doing about $2.1 million a year. The problem is they were so burned out. It was a family-owned business. They were so burned out running the day-to-day operations that the owners were just kind of tired, and they said, look, help us figure out how to plan this and let's get it on the market and sold. Well, I ended up working with them for about 3 years, and the cool thing about it was at the end of 3 years, they no longer were making 2.1, they were making $10 million. Well, guess what they didn't want to do at that point?
What's that?
They didn't want to sell anymore because in part of my system, with the processes and innovations and 80-20 rules and all kinds of things I bring to the table, they were running smoother, more efficient, less effort, less fires to put out. And the owners were actually taking a lot of time off where they didn't have to be there. And they were making 5 times more than what they were making before.
So what I'm hearing right now is that this is just really solid, strong, good business planning. And it's not just for exiting or, it's for transforming any business. So there's no right time to do this, maybe even in the beginning of the business.
Well, absolutely. Look, I mean, if you get into a business, one thing business owners don't understand or they don't think about is, okay, you're talking about how to get into business. You're talking about the marketing that you need to do to get the business rolling. Well, what's your exit strategy out of this business? Because here's the thing, Mark, 100% of all business owners will exit their business. It's just a question of, is it going to be on their feet with money in their pocket, or is it going to be on their knees at a very bad time?
That makes a lot of sense. So that was a retailer example. Can you give us another example of using your system for a business transformation?
Sure. I have a current client even. He's in the home inspection business. And one of the things, he was kind of jumpstarting his business, but one of the things I work on, and it's part of the marketing aspect, and it's also a mindset aspect. He was taking calls. People were calling him and asking him and saying, hey, how much for a home inspection? He would tell them the price and they would hang up the phone. I said, well, listen, we've got to control the conversation. So let's talk about your confidence level here. Let's talk about what you really need to tell them before they can make an educated decision. So in rewriting some of his scripts and helping him with his phone work and understanding what their hot buttons are, he was able to convert a lot more phone calls into actual appointments. First year with me, he doubled his revenue, and I think he's working on almost tripling it at this point.
Fantastic. So that is an example in a professional service or a home service, that is. So what other kind of examples do you have for us?
Well, they go on and on. I've got real estate people who work with me. I've got all kinds of I've white collar people. I had an electrician, perfect example. He worked with me, and one of the things right out of the gate was, okay, let's kind of see what your competition's doing. Let's find out what they're doing, and let's see where you stand in all this. So one of the things was, and it was another mindset thing, right? It started with a mindset thing. And, he was doing work. He does great work. And he'd forget to bill, or he'd bill and forget to collect. And at the end of the day, number one, I was able to raise his fees 40% coming out of the gate. Plus, he had delinquencies of $50,000. And delinquencies is a big problem in business. I don't know why business owners do this. They give credit where credit should be earned. But I've taught him how, if you want to give credit, here are the parameters for getting credit to the people you do work for. Anyway, long story short, he had 50,000 outstanding, which we collected within 2 months. So not only did he raise his rates, increase basically his income, his revenue by 40% within a very short time, but we also collected the other $50,000 that he hadn't been paid for.
Great. So another service business example. And when you mentioned billing and outstanding, collections, I started thinking healthcare. What about, will this work for a medical practice? Tell us about an example about that.
I've worked with dental practices in the past, and yes, but there's a different dynamic going on with medical practices. A lot of them are taking insurance, a lot of them are dealing with government entities and stuff like that. So I generally, unless they're talking about marketing, or unless they're talking about what to make this practice worth in the long run to sell it, I generally don't get involved in that kind of stuff. They've got people who deal specifically in the office with governmental agencies and all that stuff for insurance. I mean, they have a whole division sometimes in some of these medical places. So it's not something I typically do.
Right on. So before I ask you my last question, in regards to really creating a transformation in your business for any type of business owner, is there anything I didn't think to ask you that you think is important to share?
Well, you pretty much covered a lot of it. But look, you either fail to plan or you plan to fail. And unfortunately, most business owners are running their business by the seat of their pants. I have business owners that I say, hey, look, what's your margin on this particular product, right? This is one of the things I went in with the gun shop and said, listen, you've got all this stuff in your inventory, right? Hundreds of things, and you haven't made dime one on the bottom 20%. We're going to lose it. Now we have freed up resources that we can put into the top 20% of your money makers. But sometimes I go in there and I go, what's your margin on this? I'm not really sure. Well, you're not really sure. How do you know if you're making money? If you don't know what your profit margins are? Or they'll tell me something, I had a landscape guy, the guy's doing $800,000 a year in business. His bottom line profit is 5%. Are you going to spend all that money, all that payroll, managing people, managing equipment so you can make 5% of $800,000? I don't think so. I don't get out of bed for 5%. Nobody should. But that's the kind of thing I'm helping my clients get around.
So in this episode, what really comes to mind is this is all about business transformations aren't just for the exiting of the sale, but this is for the beginning of the business. So there's no, wrong time to do max business profits. So for folks who want to get that, and this also reminds me of selling a house. When you stage your house to sell, all of a sudden it's beautiful again, and you're like, why didn't I do this when I lived here? Right. Now I want to keep it.
Right. You make it more attractive to the buyer.
That's right. So now it's telling me that a lot of business owners listening would probably love to see a transformation in their own business, even if they are thinking of keeping it. So how can business owners that want this kind of transformation for their businesses, how can they connect with you and learn more?
Well, and before I get there, look, you can have a business or you can have a job. And if you have a job and you're your own boss and that's all you need and that's all you care about, that's fine. But if you actually want to turn that business into an asset and capitalize on that asset when the time is right, then you're going to want to call me at 239-580-7408. Reach out to me via email, Sergio at maxbusinessprofits.com. And if you get a moment, come on over to the website, take a look at it, maxbusinessprofits.com.
Sergio, this has been great. I appreciate you taking the time to share with my audience, and I wish you continued success for you and for all of your clients.
Thank you so much, Mark.
That was Sergio DeCesare. He's the creator and the founder of the Max Business Profits Business Alchemy system. So, my name's Mark Imperial. That's all for this episode, and thanks for joining us.